Transportation Committee. And welcome to our committee meeting by Zoom. And we've got 3 presentations this evening. I do want to start by taking attendance. Probably I should wait till people roll in, but I think I'll just do it preliminarily. So I'm going to start with committee members. Adam Cox, he's traveling. He's not here. I remember he told me. Out. Tom Ryan. Dominic Stiller, yes, I am here. Nas Magutas.
Here.
Yes, thank you. Yuma. Antonella Di Severio. Christina Lastras. Amin Mehedi. So it looks like we've got 2 of 8 members at this point. Hopefully some will roll in. Are there any CB1 members here?
Daniel Aliberti is here.
Thank you. Hi, Daniel.
Shahnaz Hamdi.
Hi.
Hi, Shamda. Hold on, I gotta get your name. Shahanez.
I'm here. And we have a new board member who's on too as well. She wants to say hello if she can hear. Oh, 2. We have 2 new board members. I see Mario and Quinella.
Hey, so
Thank you.
yeah, go ahead and do me a favor. New board members, give me your first and last name so I could just write it here, please.
My name is Quinella Williams, new
Hey,
board member.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And I'm Mario Vergara. Nice to meet
Mario Regara, I'm sorry.
you. Vergara with a V.
Oh, I see you there. Hi, how are you? You got some ears.
Gotta have some.
I know. Okay, so our first presentation is the 20th Road Pedestrian Safety Improvements. That is a meandering road through the north of Astoria that I was not very aware of because I reside in the south of our district. And so it's an interesting road, and I understand that there is DOT presentation to enhance pedestrian safety between 35th and 36th Street. So could I get the name of the presenters from the DOT for that? Is that Carissa Lidstrand? Are you leading that? No?
It will be me, Yue Wu. I'm project manager with Public Realm, and Jessica should be on the call as well.
Hi,
So
I am the Deputy Director for Project Development and Delivery for the Public Realm at DOT. And we're also joined by Dan Wagner, the Director of Project Development and Delivery for DOT.
So it's Jessica Kronstein. Nice to meet you.
Yes, hi.
NYC DOT Public Realm. What is your title?
Deputy, I will put it in the chat as you asked.
All right. And Yue, is that how you pronounce it? Yue?
Yue Wu.
Yue Wu.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And I'm sorry, the third name I didn't get, even though Jessica mentioned it. Is that Dan Wagner?
It's me, Dan Wagner.
Hey, what, Dan Wagner? And what's your title, Dan?
I am the director for Public Realm's Project Development and Delivery team.
Public Realm Project Delivery? Say again?
Development, yeah, Project Development and Delivery. Development and Delivery? Project Development and Delivery. I should know this.
I'm writing this. Director for Public Realm Project Development and Delivery. Unit?
Yeah.
Unit, is that right?
Public Realm Unit, if you want.
Okay.
Thanks, Jessica. Jessica wrote it down.
Thanks, Jessica. Okay, so
I'm Dominic here. We're also here from the Queensborough Commissioner's Office. This is Joseph Patty, the borough planner for Western Queens, and J.C. Bannery is also here, one of the deputies for the borough.
What's up, Dom?
hey, how are you, Mr. Jason Bannery?
Fantastic.
Hi, Joseph. Nice to meet you.
Good to see
You
you.
as well.
Yep, you too, Jason. Okay, so will you be the main presenter, Jessica Kronstein?
I will kick it off and hand it over to Yue, who is the project manager.
Okay.
She'll be
Perfect.
doing the bulk of the presentation.
All right, so I just want to pause before
Yeah.
we do start. I see a few other attendees here, so I'm just going to update my attendance sheet. Good afternoon, you. You Ma is here. Has anyone else rolled in from CB1 committee or? No? Okay, thanks. So please take it away, Jessica.
But Don, we do have a new board member. Kian has just joined us too. So yeah.
I didn't know whether to announce myself or not. Yeah, not on the committee, but new to the board.
Kian Betancourt. Nice to meet you, Kian.
Great to meet you.
Thanks. Okay. not MTA, DOT, take it away.
Great, thank you. And Yue will need to share a screen to present. Awesome. Great. So as Dominic said, we are here tonight to talk through some pedestrian improvements for 20th Road, specifically at this location where there is no sidewalk. Next slide. And so we are from the public realm at DOT, so our priorities are, so everything we do starts with community partnerships and engagement. This particular project came out of a request. We also run the Open Streets program, which has really opened the door to a lot of new partnerships throughout the city. Those partnerships lead to improving crossings and intersections, dynamic curb and corridor strategies, premier public spaces. We bolster all of those more sort of physical interventions with programming and concessions, equity-focused maintenance, and then all of that can sort of grow into larger comprehensive planning and policy efforts. And then that sort of loops back into community partnerships and engagement. So moral of the story, once we put something in, we sort of never disappear. We're always there to hear more. And with that, I think I'm going to hand it over to Yue to talk through the project.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Going back to the presentation. So yes, I will start with the project background. So this project is located at 35th Street and 20th Road, as you can see in the map, represented by the star here, north of Lawrence Cemetery. It came from community request to enhance pedestrian safety and address lack of sidewalk. And the neighborhood is a residential neighborhood, but there are many amenities and some pedestrian generators in the vicinity, including IS 141, Steinway Playground, Woodtree Playground, Dimas Boulevard Commercial Corridor, and the Astoria Dimas Boulevard subway station. As you see from the picture in the cover, there are also people walking dogs on 20th Road. And according to the pedestrian mobility plan, 20th Road between 35th Street and 36th Street is designated a baseline street. And I will talk more about the pedestrian mobility plan later. This is the safety data of this intersection between 2018 to 2020, the 5-year period. There was no pedestrian injuries or fatalities, which is great news, and our project will hopefully keep it that way. And pedestrian mobility plan provides guideline for all of our designs, and it is a holistic data-driven framework, which is developed based on 4 principles: equity, access, parity, and health. And as you can see in the middle, there are 3 circles. Those represent different treatments we can use to achieve the goals of safety, comfort, and convenience. For this project specifically, we are using the new sidewalk treatment to provide a safe and comfortable pedestrian space on 20th Road. And first, let's look at the existing condition. So there's no sidewalk next to the cemetery, which is a major issue we would like to address here. And the existing sidewalk leads to a gated staircase, as you can see in the photo on the upper right. And on this block of 20th Road, the street width is irregular. At the 35th Street side, the street width is 41 feet, but on the 36th Street side, it's only 32 feet. So the widened street at the end of 35th Street really became a parking lane next to the returning wall, as you can see in the photo on the bottom right. So the parked cars and the lack of sidewalk forced the pedestrians to walk in the street, which is not ideal. And what made it worse is that the sidewalk on the north side of 20th Road is extremely narrow. If you are familiar with the street, you will know that there's a light pole in the middle of a very narrow sidewalk on the north side. And that made it not accessible for people with stroller or wheelchair users. So our proposal will address those issues. We propose a new ADA compliant concrete sidewalk adjacent to the cemetery, and the width of the sidewalk will be 8 feet, which is designated by the pedestrian mobility plan. And the new sidewalk will repurpose 10 parking spaces along the south curb, and the final number of the parking spaces might be reduced depending on the technical details. Additionally, we are proposing daylighting at the intersection. So no standing anytime signage will be put next to the south sidewalk on 35th Street. And this will also facilitate safer crossing at the intersection. And this is a past project we completed in Brooklyn. We constructed a new concrete sidewalk next to BQE at Washington Street and York Street. As you can see in the after photos, there's a new concrete sidewalk with pedestrian ramp. This is what you can expect to see at 20th Road. We will be using the same material to improve the pedestrian experience here. And the project do provide important benefits. It will provide ADA compliant sidewalk to enhance pedestrian safety, and it will help complete the sidewalk network in the neighborhood. So it's a very straightforward project and with obvious benefits. And this is end of presentation, and we are ready for any questions you have.
Thanks very much. I don't have any immediate questions. So I wonder if any committee members have any immediate questions. With the screen share, I'm not sure I can see everyone, but I think if your hand was up, it would pop up. So Nas, please. And you next.
Hi, thanks, Dom. I kind of love this because I actually live 30 steps away from the cemetery, and 20th Road is so weird, and I love it, and I love the cemetery there. It's very cool. Obviously, super needed upgrade because it is as nice of a street as it is. It's very unfriendly to pedestrians, so yeah, sorely needed. I would just say, while I understand the scope of this is just to extend a sidewalk over there where the cemetery is. As a resident, I would just say that visibility in general on the entire corridor is bad. So I'm glad to hear that daylighting's planned for this particular section. If you revisit going forward, or if during the work on this, there's an opportunity to look at daylighting across 20th Road and or signage. It would be great because it's also kind of weird for how close it is to the school and the park nearby that like it's actually a very pedestrian unfriendly across most of the length of it. So, but other than that, yeah, like I never thought I'd see the day where a sidewalk would go by the cemetery. So thank you and looking forward to it.
Thank you very much.
You?
Thanks, Dom. Thanks, DOT, for coming and presenting this great plan. I have two questions. One question is around the timeline. When does DOT expect to get started or finish this work?
Yeah, I'll start. We're expecting late May or early June as our start date, and we forecast it's probably a month or two of actual work. So it's not a long project. Should be pretty quick in and out.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you. My second question is around the width of the street. It seems like after the treatment, the roadbed seems to be 30. I actually don't know what 33 feet is relative to other streets. Can that be more narrow, given that this seems to be a side street and we know that wider streets encourage speeding?
I'll answer this. So the way that we have designed the project is based around a lot of like sort of what can we do in an affordable manner. The actual edge of the new proposed sidewalk is actually aligning with the previously existing catch basin, which you can see in that bottom right photo there. That we need to meet so that like to move that catch basin costs many millions of dollars versus to build the sidewalk can be done in the less than seven figures price point. So part of this is to meet sort of what the ground is giving us. And as a frame of reference, 33 feet is 3 feet wider than what a normal sort of Manhattan cross street is. They're usually 30 feet curb to curb. So 33 is pretty good.
Understood. That makes sense. Thank you.
I'll just add to that. It's also two-way. So like if a normal cross street that is one way is 30 feet, this is a two-way street. So I don't know that we actually have a lot of room to play with.
So I would like to ask you a question on that, Jessica, but I see Evie's hand up. So Evie, you want to go first and I'll go after?
Sure. I'm just wondering, are any trees going to be included in the sidewalk since they seem pretty wide? Plan for that as well.
There is an existing tree that will stay on the sidewalk. But for the 8 feet, the new sidewalk, we don't have plans to include trees.
Yeah, the tree pit standard for NYC DPR is to have a 5 foot by 10 foot tree pit. And if we did that, then you'd only have 3 feet of actual walking space, which is substandard. So we didn't want to cut into the pedestrian experience.
Evie, good. So yeah, I wondered, Dan, if they'd ever I guess consider a potential bump out for a tree pit, maybe work with just an idea, work with DPR for a 4-foot tree pit that may bump out a foot or two. Don't know, but I would like to just I want to get specific on Jessica's numbers there. You said it's a two-way street, 33 foot wide. Do you guys figure on travel lanes of what, 11, and then parking lanes of 8? Is that your standards at DOT? Like, what's your minimum in terms of parking lane and travel lane, if I could ask?
I mean, it's not as clear cut as those minimums, but typically, I'll say instead of minimum, I'll say typically. Typically, a parking lane is 8 feet, and a travel lane is 10 or 11, depending on sort of the context. If it's a two-way street, they like to give 11 feet, so that way there's a little more wiggle room for oncoming traffic to not run into each other. So here, there's only one parking lane with the new sidewalk, because we're gonna have no parking on the south curb.
That's the missing link, understood.
Yeah. Okay.
Wasn't adding up. Okay. And are there any other questions from any other members of the community board? Are there any members of the public that want to ask a question? If so, you'd raise your hand. I assume you have the ability. Okay, I see a few more CB1 members, so I'm just going to write your name down. I see Elizabeth Arion is here. Hello, Elizabeth. And I guess you could you unshare you? Sorry, I know. Could you pronounce your name one more time, you?
Yue.
I'm sorry, say again?
Yue.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Liz. Okay, so if there are no other questions, are going to move on to our next topic. So, but I just want to say thanks so much to the Public Realm Department. Now we know how to reach you, and we'll find out why, and we will do so regarding street improvements in CB1. And we really thank you for your time and your presentation. The next presentation is about the Queensboro Bridge improvement project, and it's all about the I guess the conversion of the South Outer Roadway to a pedestrian walkway. And I remember attending something in the recent past, and it was you, Carissa Lindstrom. I think you presented that, so now I know why you're here. And
Yes.
would you be able to put if you have any members of your group, would you be able to put your contact and your name, title, and agency in the chat if it's not too much trouble? And
Yeah.
And then take it away, DOT.
Thank you. Okay, I'm putting everything in the chat. I'm also part of the Public Realm team, so Dan will also be staying on. Okay, let me share the presentation.
And hi, Antonella, by the way, in terms of attendance.
All right. Okay, I'll get started. So hello, everyone. My name is Carissa Lidstrand, and I'll be presenting the street improvements that we'll be making as part of the South Outer Roadway conversion. Since Jessica already went through the Public Realm feedback loop, I'm just kind of gonna skip over that for now and kind of just jump right into the background on the project. So I think, as a lot of you know, during the de Blasio administration, it was announced that New York City DOT would close the South Outer Roadway to vehicles and open it to pedestrians. And around that same time, DOT was also starting some construction on the upper deck of the Queensboro Bridge, and that work has continued through today. And has been one of the factors that we've been waiting on to officially open the South Outer Roadway to pedestrians. And so once we're able to do that, we want to make some street level improvements on both the Queens side as well as the Manhattan side of the bridge. And we see this as all one cohesive project that we want to time out at the same time. So before I get into kind of the existing conditions and the proposal, I just want to talk about some of our kind of goals and objectives for this project. So we really want to be thinking about creating a pedestrian network that is accessible, safe, and convenient. While we are not relocating where bikes will access the Queensboro Bridge, we do want to be thinking about the existing bike network and any enhancements that can be made to that. And then we also want to think about maintaining local access for vehicles that are accessing businesses, residents, or any city facilities along these routes. And so really why we're here today is because the north outer roadway of the Queensboro Bridge is over capacity. It's the only New York City DOT East River Bridge that has a shared use path between bikes and pedestrians for the full span of the bridge. The Queensboro Bridge also has the second highest bike numbers at around 7,100 bikes that are going over the bridge daily. And then we have about 2,800 people that also walk over the bridge daily. And then kind of transitioning to what the south outer roadway looks like currently. This is a one travel lane route that takes mostly passenger vehicles because of height restrictions from Manhattan to Queens. It has been closed overnight with the upper deck repairs that I was mentioning earlier. And the count for vehicles accessing this daily is around like 8,000, which is actually a little less than the combined total of the bikes and pedestrians that are using the north outer roadway. And so now I'll transition into the existing conditions for the Queens side of the bridge. So starting with thinking about pedestrian access, like I was mentioning in our goals, we really want to create this accessible, safe, and convenient route. So we want to take a look at what's existing. And so right now, pedestrians are accessing the bridge around Queens Plaza North and Crescent Street, and at the upper star here. And then we're relocating that access point to where the south outer roadway is, which is along Queens Plaza South and Crescent Street. And so we just want to be thinking about the existing crossings and the dynamic between kind of like the developing neighborhoods on both sides of the bridge, as well as where there are MTA entrances and different pedestrian generators in the area. And so taking a closer look at those existing conditions, some things that I want to point out. So we have a plan on the right-hand side that shows Queens Plaza South on the south side here, and then Queens Plaza North on the northern side. And then there's some accompanying photos on the left that show that there's no current crossing that gets you from kind of that south side of Crescent Street to the north side across the bridge. But we do have an existing signal that gets you to the lower roadway, which is here, as well as here on the plan. And then we also have an existing crossing on 27th Street, which has it's broken up by a lot of medians. And if you're a pedestrian and if you get to the light when it changes to the walk signal, you typically can cross all the way. But if you do not make it there when the walk signal changes, then you might end up having to wait on one of the medians for the next walk cycle. And then transitioning into kind of the existing bike network. Again, we're not relocating where bikes will access the bridge. So they will still have access to the north outer roadway, which will be just for bikes. There will be no pedestrian signage, or there will be signage that says no pedestrians allowed. And so bikes have access to this route through the Greenway as well as Crescent Street. And then looking at the vehicle existing conditions, the south outer roadway does provide access to a number of different streets in Queens. But something to mention is that the lower roadway also provides access to those streets like Queens Boulevard, Northern Boulevard, Jackson Avenue, and 495. So now transitioning into our proposal. I just want to kind of touch base on DOT's toolkit that we have. There's a lot of different materials that we can use for our in-house projects, including concrete materials, which is something that's really great, is that we have our own construction crews, like Yue was mentioning earlier in her project, to do concrete projects. We also can do a number of signage changes, as well as curb regulations, as well as a number of different materials like on the asphalt with markings. And so I want to start out by kind of showing this conceptual idea of what we are proposing for the improvements at the base of the South Outer Roadway. And so, as I was mentioning before, we do have in-house concrete crews, and we do think we can build all of this in-house and not have to wait for a capital project, which we're able to build this out this year as opposed to waiting 5 to 10 years to see these improvements. So one of the things I want to highlight is this is where the South Outer Roadway currently comes out. And so we want to provide a concrete landing that is accessible for both pedestrians, but also recognizing this is the New York City Marathon route, so providing access for that as well. And then we would also be proposing a number of other concrete improvements because we would like to continue the signal that I was mentioning before that goes to the lower roadway. We would continue that over to this concrete landing and signalizing kind of the lower roadway into Queens, and then providing other improvements to get pedestrians all the way across to Queens Plaza North, which I'll show you in the plan view that you've been looking at. This is the proposal version. So again, here is the concrete landing at the base of the South Outer Roadway that you saw in the conceptual design. And then this would be the new signal across the lower roadway section here with a concrete median tip extension. And then this would connect all the way over to the Queens Plaza North section. And then, as I was mentioning before, 27th Street kind of is a long crossing with it's very broken up by medians. And so we want to provide an access point along the elevated structure with a new sidewalk that connects so that it reduces any crossing distances for pedestrians with that signal. And then we've also been coordinating with the MTA on their elevator upgrades at Queens Plaza South and Crescent Street as well. And so then just noting again with the South Outer Roadway being close to vehicles, there are a number of different routes that vehicles can take through the lower roadway. There's also the upper roadway, which can get you to Thompson Ave or 21st Street. And then just kind of bringing us back to the conceptual design again, I know there's a lot of things kind of going on in this area, so just wanted to provide a little more time to take in the improvements that would be made. And then discussing timeline. So we are anticipating that the South Outer Roadway will open to pedestrians in late summer of this year. And so we want to be thinking about the improvements that we can make on both the Manhattan and Queens side of the bridge before that happens, and then the improvements that have to wait until after the South Outer Roadway is closed to vehicles. And so that's what this timeline reflects. So this, again, is both the Manhattan and the Queens improvements, kind of all outlined here on this slide. And that's our presentation. Can I answer any questions that anyone has?
Thanks for the presentation.
Daniel Aliberti has a question.
Hey, Dan. Please
Hi.
go ahead, Dan.
Okay. Are you doing anything to the rail, the railing? So when you're coming across the bridge, you're safe from falling into the water.
Right. Yes. So we will be adding a fence along the entire South Outer Roadway, similar to what is existing on the North Outer Roadway today.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah. So I guess with the presentation up, I don't see any of the meeting attendees, so I'm not sure if anyone's raising their hand, but I assume they're not.
Noah has a question. If you want help, Dom, or would you like the expression?
Is there a way for me to see that and still see the share, or could you take down the share as we switch?
No, you would have to take down the share, my friend.
So,
I can stop sharing if
yeah,
that's.
take it down, and when we switch, maybe we throw it back up. Oh, perfect. So so who did you say had the? I see the hands now.
You, Ma, and then now I guess Nas would be next.
Please, hi, you. please go ahead.
Great. Thanks. Really excited for this. I think many of us in the community have been waiting a long time. So I'm excited to see this finally happen. Two questions. One, will the DOT be making lighting improvements to either to the path on the bridge or the entrances on either side?
So I can answer. So as part of our street level improvements and the new signal that's going in, lighting will be considered for like the landing area of where the South Outer Roadway comes down. And then we're also looking into lighting underneath the like elevated MTA structure for the new sidewalk. I can check in with our bridges team on the lighting for the South Outer Roadway. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, I think that the lighting on the bridge would match what's on the North Outer Roadway, like the existing bike path today. So if it doesn't, it'll probably match that. But I suspect that the existing lighting is already fairly good.
Okay, thank you. My second question is, so sometimes when I ride Manhattan or Williamsburg bridges, there will be pedestrians in the bike lane and then bikers on the pedestrian side. So how do you plan to prevent those sort of conflicts? People make mistakes all the time, but it's sometimes not ideal.
Great question. So as part of this project, since we're relocating where pedestrians will enter the bridge, we want to have some like advanced signage that, tells people where the new entrance is. We're also going to be upgrading all of the wayfinding signage in the area. And then we will be adding signage like the no pedestrian signage on like the bike side, and same like no bikes on the pedestrian side. And we're going to try to make sure that it's as clear as possible and also be monitoring things as we're making these improvements and opening the South Outer Roadway.
Some no motorcycle signs would be appreciated.
Yeah, we'll have those. I also want to throw out that
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Are you done? Sorry, Dan.
I'm done.
Okay, I was just being flip because we see motorcycles and mopeds on the bridge. So if you're talking about signage, so go ahead, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah, we know what you're talking about, and we know. What I was going to say though is that we are hoping that the pedestrian experience with the new path will be so much more pleasant, and it's just such an improvement that it'll be sort of a self-reinforcing element that it'll resolve itself. Like I have walked across the Queensboro Bridge. It was harrowing, and I vowed I would never do that again. Right, like that level of just discomfort should be enough to keep the pedestrians on the one side and the bicyclists on the other side. I think that is going to be a strong factor in keeping those two things separate.
Thanks, Dan. Nas, I think your hand was next, and then Antonella, and then Evie.
Dan Aliberti.
Dan Aliberti also.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, will you be putting the truncated domes on the surface on either end for visually impaired people?
Yes, we will be making all of the accessibility upgrades as part of this project.
Thank you.
Hi, yeah, I'll just echo what Hugh said, and this is very exciting, long time coming, obviously. Regarding the pedestrian experience, yeah, I think the most critical thing is like the wayfinding, especially for people that are used to it from the north side. Because even just looking across Queensboro Plaza is like very frightening. So I would hope that that's really going to just draw people to the side that they want to be on. As part of this, is there going to be some kind of, just curious if there's going to be some kind of maybe second pass in terms of what's happening on the north side in terms of bikes that are both using the greenway / pedestrians that are walking along the greenway / bikes coming off the bridge, because there's a bit of a situation there which understandably is largely due to the fact that the crescent lane is on the side that it currently is, but that's opposite of the side you need to be on to kind of smoothly get onto the bridge. So this is mainly in relation to like signal timing and sort of, I would say like floor indicators of where people need to be.
Yeah, that's definitely a good flag and something that we can look into more to make sure that that transition is seamless now that there won't be as many pedestrians kind of using the north outer roadway, like that section. Although we are having that crossing connect to the greenway, and that's something that we will be observing because we recognize that there are high bike volumes at that intersection. So that's something we'll look into more.
Thanks.
Antonella, please.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. Has the impact of the traffic redirection been measured or anticipated on the other roadways? And what do you think the outcome would be on that? And then I had are there going to be safety measures addressed on the north side of the street with all those scooters and bikes going super fast? I mean, it's still dangerous for people who don't have mechanized bicycles. I mean, not bicycles, like scooters and stuff where people are just still going on regular bicycles. It's still dangerous. And then this is a nice to have. On the south side, will there be viewpoints for, I know there are a lot of tourists that like to stop on the bridge while they're walking to take pictures of Manhattan. Will there be like viewpoints, unobstructed viewpoints for them to be able to take photos and gaze or whatnot? And then the other thing is the buses that go down, that leave the bridge, sometimes they don't have a regard for bicyclists. They kind of just pack that side, that roadway after the bridge, after exiting the bridge. I don't know if you can speak to that. I think that's it. Sorry, a lot of questions.
Good question.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the first question is the kind of traffic analysis. So we have done the traffic analysis for this area, and something that we're also going to be looking into further with congestion pricing is that both the lower roadway and the upper roadway, kind of like looking at the capacity of those streets with the South Outer Roadway closure. That's something we're going to be monitoring over the next like half year as we're kind of implementing this project, as well as congestion pricing going in. But the initial model that we've done shows everything working, and that traffic kind of goes in a number of different routes to different streets. And then the second question about scooter speeds and bike speeds over on the Greenway, that's definitely something we can flag with our kind of educational team that does a lot of like scooter delivery bike, like in education and outreach about speeds in like in bike lanes and stuff like that. We can also kind of be monitoring that as we're implementing the project and note if there's any issues with that. And then the viewpoint question has come up in other meetings and is something that we're going to be raising with our team that's going to be installing the fence to see if there's any additional things they could do. I think that is a good idea. And then the fourth question about buses that are leaving the bridge. I am not as familiar with this, but this is something I can look into more. I don't know if Dan or Jason, you know anything more about that.
I'm sorry, entering the bridge from Crescent, I misspoke.
I can speak to that. So as part of the MTA's bus network redesign, they're actually going to have buses use Queens Plaza proper, like the center roadway. They're going to be bypassing Queens Plaza North as part of their current plan. So they won't have to, make that crossing through Crescent to get onto the bridge from there.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much for all your thoughtfulness on with all of the questions. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Antonella. Evie?
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. This is great to see. Can't wait till it's all complete. But this is just a suggestion. I know wayfinding is great and signage is great, but maybe those first few days, actually having people there to kind of help educate and orient people. So it's not, something that turns into kind of a chaotic or problematic situation. That's just a suggestion.
I think that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, we did that for the Brooklyn Bridge in 2021, or 2022, whatever year it was. So there's a chance we could pull that off again. We haven't actually gotten that into that level of detail. We will take that back. Thank you.
Thank you. Antonella, your hand is up, but still up.
Oh, sorry. I had one more question. There are porta potties on the bridge. That's going to be removed, or are you guys leaving that?
Those porta potties are the contractor, like the actual bridge contractor that's doing the construction. And those are going to disappear when the construction is complete.
Okay, great. Thanks. That's it.
So great. Yeah, I also want to say I personally live very close to the bridge, do travel over it often, and really looking forward to this implementation and hope it's not delayed by the construction. I know that the meeting we were at was just a little more Manhattan specific a couple of weeks ago. Jason and Carissa were there. There was a lot of harder questions on the timeline. So I don't want to rehash all that, but I know you're still, you're still seeing it realistic to have the south outer roadway open to pedestrians before end of August, correct?
We are pushing for the late summer. That is still currently the plan.
So is your intention to kind of like, are there any other furniture or other implementations that will go on the bridge proper on the southbound, on the south side outer roadway that are just not part of this project, but will be implemented, and will they possibly be presented at a later date? I guess that would include those viewports that Antonella mentioned, and maybe is it plans for any benches or for anything else? Not that I need it, I'm just asking.
The benches did come up in the Queen CB2 meeting. And so that is something that I'm bringing up with our street furniture unit to see if we can add any benches near the south outer roadway on the Queen side. Yeah.
I think the bridge itself, the path is going to be similar to every path on all of the Queens, or on all of the East River bridges, which is to say there are not benches mid-span.
Right. One question about the new conditions. You got this, maybe you could bring up could you bring up the presentation, the proposed design? There's a new sidewalk that, it's the one on right there. I guess it's your item 3 from your other slide, but on this slide, it's called Build Concrete Sidewalk to 27th Street. Right? The one.
Yeah.
The lowest blue leader, Build Concrete Sidewalk. So is that currently there or not?
No, that's something that we're looking to add as part of this project.
So your comment on this, Carissa, was to shorten, basically this is a way for what I assume this is a way for when people are waiting to cross because they didn't make the full crossing, they can, transverse left or right to kind of save time. That's what you mean by saving time on this one. So that's a great idea, and I hadn't seen that in the earlier presentation. Thanks. Okay. Are there any other questions from any other members of CB1?
Yeah, I have a question actually. Sorry, could you pull the diagram back up?
Oh yeah, sorry.
I was curious. So right above where it says to lower roadway, there's that two-way bike path, and I think that connects back to Northern. Yeah, right there. It shows only bike markings, but actually further down, it actually shows that it's a dual pedestrian and bike walkway or greenway. I'm wondering if if that's going to now be regulated to only bikes, given that only bikes would theoretically use that to get on that side of the bridge, or if there's any plans whatsoever to change that particular part.
I'd have to look into that more. We don't have any plans at the moment to change the markings over there, but that's something I can look into further.
Yeah,
Got it.
Currently, the paths are separated, and over the past summer, we have looked at ways to help reduce some of the conflicts that we've had with bikes and peds there. We've looked at different markings and signage, so we were able to get the Parks Department to trim back some trees, and we're also looking at adding more defined crosswalks to where there are those actual crossings for pedestrians.
Got it. Thank you.
Because I think it's not shown on that drawing, but there is a intended pedestrian sidewalk right across the plantings from that bike lane, right parallel to that, which is the one you were referring to, Dan. But it's not interestingly not on the just didn't get on the plan, I guess, right? Because there's no changes to it.
Yeah, partly that reason, but also it's very confusing. We typically build our sidewalks in concrete and our bike lanes in asphalt. So it's a materials thing. And for some reason on Queens Plaza North, that sidewalk is in asphalt, which means like visually there isn't that cue that everyone else would see to realize. So I think just when we were making these diagrams, we made the same mistake that everyone makes, which is like, oh yeah, that's not, we forgot it.
Well, it's good to know there's extra concrete around for curb extensions and things like that. So
I think it also
goes back 15, 20 years when we built that,
I think it does become a shared path, like where they split off. So like the bikes would get on the bridge, and then there's like this sidewalk next to it, and I think that part is actually shared.
you mean heading west?
Yeah,
heading
further down
west. Yes.
Oh, I
yes,
thought
toward
you
that
meant
greenway.
I
guess on both, yeah, but I think it's explicitly marked there where it's pedestrians and cyclists, and then there's all the crosswalks that are perpendicular to the bike path further east. Was just curious about that.
Antonella, your hand is up. Your three hands are up. Okay. So are there any members of the public that want to comment on the Queensboro south side outer roadway? No? Okay. Carissa, thank you so much for you and your
I
team.
have one more question. So
please, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so just a second, Kian, sorry, we haven't met yet. That point, so the path, the north side west of Crescent, with the city bike rack and also the columns from the train, there is no actual sidewalk for pedestrians to walk on. So there's a lot of joggers, there's also a lot of people walking their dogs in the bike lane. So that is a big conflict zone. If there's extra concrete, I would encourage DOT to maybe lay some over there, but it's a shared path because there's just no other space for pedestrians.
That's actually a great recommendation. Maybe we can, I know that area and a lot of advocacy has happened at that area for the South Outer Roadway to happen. So what we can do is we can reach out to the team as part of this project, to the bike share team, and see if there's a better space to place that station in an effort to open up that sidewalk. That's actually something I never caught before. That's a great reco, and Joe and I will take that back and see if that's something we can do sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
Although you're right, it still is probably one of the heaviest used city bike corrals in the city. So because it is in a great place for city bike users, the city bike corral heading over the bridge there, and also, Crescent then under the bridge, not on the bridge. That's the main way to Brooklyn. So it is really a primary bike route, and anything you can do to keep it high quality is appreciated. Thanks. Any other comments or questions on this topic? Anyone? All right, I feel like I've got other, it's something we can talk about for a long, long time, but we're going to move on. And thanks again to Carissa and her team and Jason and everyone. So
Thanks for having us.
yeah, our pleasure.
And nice to see Evie here. Congratulations, even though I'm late to the game. Really looking forward to working with you in your new capacity. And I know we're working on some QBG stuff too, but I'm really, really lovely to see you here.
Thank you, Jason.
Taking the lead. Yeah.
Thank you.
So Jason, before you sign off, I'm going to jokingly say that the next topic is about Steinway becoming a pedestrian plaza, like many cities have, great merchant cities have. But I know that's not exactly what our next topic is about. But maybe someday, I think that'd be a great progressive consideration, and really help the merchants on that street. But the next presentation.
You're talking to the right team. You got all the right team members here. So
the public realm. So I think that's you gotta reach far for change, So I think CB1 would review and hopefully support progressive and dramatic changes like that. So I just
awesome. Yeah, let's
just took
pick
an
that up.
opportunity to mention it while I have so many of you here. And lastly, we all in our discussion, where one of our members named Adam Fisher Cox, who's sadly not here today, he did a great job drafting a resolution that we passed last June about street safety. And this comes back to to the discussion with UA, where I say that because she had the daylighting still in her presentation coming north on that street by the cemetery. And in reality, these signages really just aren't working as daylighting. So bring the concrete for the curb extensions and the no standing zones or the bollards or whatever. That's something I think that we would also discuss and hopefully support, because the in my neighborhood here, as Jason knows, you put up a no standing sign and it's filled with a truck. So good intentions poorly implemented could cause more danger than not. So just mentioning it because there's so many of you here and I appreciate your time.
Always opportunities down to relocate a city bike station there.
Pardon?
Inside outside joke.
Well, on that, the last response to that, which is nutty on my part, is every school should have a city bike. Every subway station should have a city bike, and they don't in our district. They were put in as a reaction to, the least contrarians, and that should be looked at too. So yeah, if you're gonna mention moving city bike corrals, consider moving them to every school and every subway station. And I think that it'd be a much more successful program, in my opinion.
Yeah. I was hoping you got that joke. I don't think you got that joke.
Oh, I got it. I just took the opportunity to plug my
idea. And we can always take a look at relocating city bike stations closer to some of the new to some of the especially on 31st, some of those areas that just had some elevators put in. There is some work that we're going to actually, we're working on right now with another team, research, implementation, and safety team, that's going to bring some pedestrian safety improvements and some concrete. We're firming that up right now. And so maybe, when we have that conversation or in advance of that conversation, we can come back to the board or just set up a conversation about what would be best as far as locations, and then we can have our team look at relocating city bike stations.
Yeah, and I'm sure City Bike has the metrics to tell us which ones are working and which one aren't. What was the name of that?
Oh yeah, totally.
What was the name of that group?
Research, Implementation, and Safety Unit. They're the unit that handled Northern Boulevard improvements in your area or at the border between CB1 and CB2. Trying to think of other projects that they've done. As of recently, they haven't done much. They also oversaw the huge Queens Boulevard project, which is continuing this year again.
Which is great. Yeah, we like to let
final phase.
We like to let good professionals do good work.
Yeah, these are great teams.
Yeah,
so it's great to work with them.
When was the public realm unit started? Any idea what year?
Yeah, I can tell you that.
Go ahead.
Officially, it was December 2023.
2020. And when was the research, implementation, and safety unit implemented? If anyone knows, officially. whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I could say for sure that was before our time. I mean, we still have the unit head that's been here for decades overseeing that unit, and
Thanks.
she had delivered the first phase of Queens Boulevard improvements when some of us were babies and not even alive. When that fencing was put along the middle, and so now she's overseeing. That was decades ago, but now she's overseeing the final portion. We're going to be engaging CB2 next month for the final phase of Queens Boulevard, which is parameters between Roosevelt and Skillman Avenue.
So you're talking about Queens Boulevard on this side. I thought the final phase was going to be maybe Briarwood to Hillside Avenue.
We did that last year.
Oh, that's in?
Yeah, that's in. That's in.
Wow.
It was the easiest one to get in. There weren't many concerns on that end, but now, this is the final phase, and so it's really special to kind of be at this juncture, especially with the South Outer Roadway happening. Some of us in the room, and I think Dami included, we've been advocating for this since 2011, shoulder to shoulder. After many crashes were happening at that South Outer Roadway, so.
Yeah, and that's what led it to be closed after 9 p.m.
Exactly. Yeah, we got it closed, right? And now some of us are on the inside making sure that it gets converted.
Well, thanks again.
Yeah. Good to see you here. Yeah, good to see you here.
Thank you. So we'll move on. Sorry to talk everyone's ear off, but appreciate the time. The next presentation is the Steinway Street ADA project. MTA to present on the upcoming Steinway Street project that is anticipated to mobilize in May 2024. And so if you could give us your name and info and possibly put in the chat, I would appreciate it. And please, I'll hand it over to the Brian. Is that your presentation, or Ryan? Who's
Yeah, hi, I'm Brian Leona. We have a whole team here, and our government and community relations group will lead off.
Government community relations. Yep.
So I'll make sure, I'll put our titles in the chat, Dominic, to make it a little easier for you. But my name is Megan. I work government relations for transit covering Northwest Queens. I'm joined by several members of the project team tonight. So I'm actually going to hand it back over to Brian to start that kickoff of introductions for those folks. We'll get into a presentation that Brian will lead, and then we'll hand it back over to Dominic for Q&A.
And we met you last month. Nice to see you.
Correct.
Oh, okay. I'll put my screen up in a sec. I have a presentation. But again, my name is Brian Leona, and if my colleagues don't, I'll add it to the chat in a sec. I'm project manager from the MTA. I'm joined by my project management team. I have some of them on the call, and they can introduce themselves as well. And there's also some other members from the MTA, our government and community relations group, that are also here to help support the project. And then, so my other colleagues can introduce themselves, and I'll bring up the screen right now. I have it on my desktop.
Hi, my name is Ryan Lescoflair. I am the project manager consultant for this particular project, and I work as public outreach manager.
Oops. Oh, okay. Hi, Ryan. So how does the screen look now? Do you see the title sheet up?
Yep, it's up.
Oh, okay. I'll jump right into it. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us over here. Appreciate the chance to present the work we have coming up at Steinway Street. That's on the M and the R line, and we have an ADA project on the way. So I've put a box around the area at the station, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with the area as well. This is part of a larger project. MTA has a bunch of projects going on right now, and we call them ADA packages. And there are various projects, bundles of stations throughout the city. Each one is adding new elevators to provide more accessibility to the subway system. This is package 3 ADA. We are installing a total of 34 elevators at 13 stations. Steinway is just one of them. And we have a contractor on board that's been brought on. The project was awarded in May of last year. So EAE is the name of the overall development group and contractor that's going to be doing the project. This particular station is going to be starting up very shortly and will be completed within the first quarter of 2026. And by the way, for your information, I probably have about 10 slides. I'll walk you through the overall layout of the station, what we're adding, how it's going to affect the streets, what the timeline is, and then we'll open it up for any of your questions and discussions about the project. So what you're seeing on the left side there is how the area is going to look when we finish some of our improvements. That's a brand new elevator that you see there right near the corner. And that's right by the corner of 34th Avenue and Steinway at the southwest corner. That staircase you see, that's a brand new staircase also. We're adding some additional access with stairs. There is an existing stair that's already out there. That's on the front side of that's 34th Avenue, and it's kind of obscured by where that elevator kiosk is right now. So we're installing a total of 2 elevators. That's one of them that you see there. That's a 3-stop elevator. It's going to take you straight from the sidewalk down to the mezzanine. At the mezzanine, you could cross over and get to the other platform, right? That's the platform going northbound. Or you could take that one more stop down right to the platform level to the southbound platform. We're going to, again, as I mentioned, we're going to update the staircase there and make sure their stair is ADA compliant. And we also make sure that the center part of the platform, that's what we call our ADA boarding area. And so we're going to make sure that that's in proper alignment with the subway car when it pulls into the station. So what you see here, this is an axonometric view of how the station circulation is going to be. And again, you see I have the scope items there on the left. So of course, as a part of putting in the elevator is going to be a lot of structural concrete work, steel work. The elevator framing has to be installed new. The penetrations to the street level have to be waterproofed. It's mechanical and plumbing work that's involved in actually providing the functionality of the elevator itself. We have the ADA path of travel, and we'll be making sure that that's all compliant. We're restoring the platform edges at the ADA boarding area, and then we're doing architectural work to tie that into the rest of the station. So here's another view, same area we were looking at before, because actually that's our major impact at the street level. The rest of it's all underground. And so here's like a slightly different view of that same new staircase that we're installing and the new elevator you see behind it. What it's going to give us is, again, better circulation, more access to the station, better safety for the customers. You notice the elevator there is all glazed. That's our current standard. It allows good visibility from anyone inside the elevator and outside the elevator, what's going on. So here's an aerial view of it. And again, I can tell, that a lot of you guys are very familiar with the area. So I'm sure you'll know this area we're talking about. The box in red, that's that new staircase I just showed you. And the box next to it in orange, that's the new elevator. So we are going to bump out the sidewalk there. We've worked with DOT, and they have approved the extension of the sidewalk in that area. That's going to extend out and give us that extra footprint while still keeping the sidewalk very wide for the pedestrians in that area. Across the street on the opposite side, and that would be the northeast corner, the green box, that's an existing staircase that's going to remain. And the blue square you see over there, that's the top of the other elevator. So basically, you can kind of see from those 2 elevators where the 2 platforms are below the street. And that blue box represents the top of the elevator. It's not going to extend that onto the street, but it does show you where we're going to have to do some of our excavation to install that, because we still have to install all that from the street level. And I'll get back into that when I go over the scheduling and the impact of this. So you've already probably noticed out there that we have started to do test pit work in the area, and we're doing that to make sure that we can identify where the utilities are that may need to be relocated for this. We found a couple from Con Edison. We expect to start doing more extensive work in June and July of 2024, and that's when we'll begin some of the excavation work around there, starting off with the utility relocation. That's our first priority on there. Where it mentions the 60 days out of service, that's not referring to the entire station. It's referring to this particular entrance. And I would point out that there's 2 control areas at the station, and this happens to be the south control area, and it's unstaffed. There's a full-time control area at the other end of the station, and that's going to remain open throughout the duration of the work. So again, when we are working and once we get to those areas where we're refurbishing the staircase and we're putting in the elevator, it's going to be in such proximity to that existing staircase that we are going to have to take it out of service for a short period of time. When it comes to the impacts to the roadways and the vehicles, the vast majority of the work we have planned to do at night where it impacts the street. And I'm going to show you a slide next about exactly how that's going to be factored in there. We'll still maintain traffic, and I'll have the slide for that. And the pedestrian lanes are going to be left largely intact. When we do have to do that excavation work, we do follow all the DOT guidelines, and we will reroute the pedestrian traffic as necessary for that part of the project. Okay, so here's the first slide I have showing the first phase of the project. And again, you see that area there in yellow. That's our main construction area, and that's where we're going to stage to excavate that blue area. That's the blue box. That's the work we're going to be doing at night. That's the top of the elevator, and that's where we have to dig into the station itself and put that elevator shaft and elevator equipment from the street down into the station. So all of our construction equipment is going to be there in that yellow box, that construction area. The area in red you see on both sides, both to the right of that construction area and across the street from it. And again, that street there, that's 34th Avenue. Those areas there, during that time period, there won't be parking available in order to maintain those 2 lanes of traffic. And those 2 black lines with the arrows, that's you can see where the traffic will be rerouted during the daytime. That's going to be about 22 months total duration for that area because the work is so extensive. We do have to dig up quite a bit to get in there. I'm going to go to the next slide now. Okay, so this in here is across the street. And again, you can see that orange area, that's our construction zone. And you see at this point, it does take up that part of the sidewalk. The area in blue, that's the plating where we're excavating into the street itself. But again, we're going to do that at nighttime. We should be able to knock that out in about 2 weeks. So for 2 weeks at nighttime, we are going to be working in that street. But again, during the daytime, all of that stuff will be open. We'll still be able to maintain traffic in both directions, which is pretty positive thing. And again, you can see the area where there won't be parking available, again, because of the construction equipment and the excavation we're doing. This side of the work is going to be quite extensive because we are putting in that new elevator and new staircase. As well as, before we do that, we're going to relocate those utilities I mentioned. So here's the overall timeline for the project. Again, as I mentioned, it's going to wrap up in the first quarter of 2026. Our startup is going to be in second quarter of this year, 2024, so it's not that far away. That's when we're going to be working on those utilities that are in the area, okay? So first we start to relocate the utilities, and then once they're out of the way, by the third quarter of 2024 is when we'll start doing more excavation and getting into putting the elevator shaft. That's for the northbound elevator. The southbound elevator, and that was the second drawing I showed you. Again, we'll start there also at the same time to do some of our utility work in the middle to end of 2024. Okay, and then the excavation will be 2024, end of 2024, throughout the first half up to quarter 3 of 2025. At the platform level, we're working on the ADA boarding area. And again, that's something that won't affect anything at the street level. We do that work at nights or on the weekends. The elevators then should all be finished by the first quarter of 2026. The MTA will then do what's called a commissioning process to test them, make sure that there are no issues with them, and then they'll be put into service. So for those of you that are, again, right in the area, you may have seen this. This is some of our test pits we dug just a couple of weeks ago. And that's where we're trying to, again, locate those Con Edison lines that are out there. We've already completed these and refilled those areas, and we found most of the information we were looking for. In order to, again, provide all the information to your group, we have a project website, and that's what you see on the screen right there. We have a project hotline that's going to be posted at the station as well once we set up the barricades. And that hotline is dedicated for the project. And if someone has a question about the station work going on, it goes to our project team and they can walk someone through any of their concerns about it. It's not for emergencies. If there's an emergency or someone was hurt in an accident, of course, always dial 911 first. It's for project related questions. And again, you see the contact information from my colleague, Megan Molina. And they're our liaison between us on the construction side and the rest of the community that we're working on. So having gone through those, that's the extent of my presentation. And now I'll turn it back over to Megan and be able to answer any of your questions, I hope.
Thank you, Brian. I just wanted to thank the community board again for giving us the opportunity to present tonight. So with that said, Dominic, I'll hand it back over to you for questions we'll be happy to take.
Thanks. If you could just take down the presentation, but we may, people may request it up again, but just so we could see any hands, I would appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You got it.
Dan Aliberti, please.
Yeah, hi, good evening. Two brief questions. How far from the actual roadway will these elevator boxes, structures be? And the other question is, are these actual elevators or are they actually lifts?
Oh, I can answer that. So again, there's only one elevator at the street level, right? When the construction is finished, okay? And that's the elevator in the southwest corner. DOT minimum is 18 inches from our structure to the street itself. And so we are going to be pretty close to that area because we do want to maximize the width of the sidewalk between the elevator and the store that's there. So we'll be at a minimum of 18 inches from the street.
Yeah, my concern is traffic, cars.
Oh, how so?
Well, accidents, cars going off the road, whatever. Slippery roads on a rainy, slippery night, whatever.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, again, we do have, as is typical throughout the city, we've got the curb there. The MTA's latest design, actually, the base of it is a concrete base, and it's actually reinforced to withstand like a 50,000-pound impact. So when I pointed out that it's a glass elevator, it's a glass elevator from about 36 inches above the sidewalk level, and that lower part reinforced concrete.
Okay, well, I wouldn't stop a tractor trailer, but okay for now. What about the lift versus the elevator?
So it is an elevator. It's a hydraulic elevator, that location.
It is. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Dan. I think that you've hit upon one of the main problems in our area that we don't realize you're not allowed to drive on the sidewalk. Evie, you're next.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to see more elevators being installed across the system. I'm curious, could you repeat how long you thought that the street construction would be happening? And I guess I'm curious what outreach you've done to the local business community. And have you talked to Mahmoud, who has the food truck?
Correct. So again, the actual street work where we're excavating in the street and disrupting traffic, that's limited to a maximum of about 4 weeks. Okay. We will have the barricades set up longer than that, for quite a few months for all the excavation and the installation work. But the street itself will always be open during the daytime, barring a very unique condition if something were to come up where for safety we needed to get in there during daylight hours. But that's not likely. It's possible, but not likely. So again, during the daytime hours, the street will always have 2 lanes of traffic. And that excavation I was referring to that's going to be plated over, they'll finish up the work by 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning, and then they'll put the steel plates back over the excavation. And again, back to the community outreach, yes, our team actually has gone out there. We're aware of the businesses that are in the area. We've already reached out to them, and we will continue to keep them in the loop.
So you've made contact with the local businesses. You've actually talked to them about what's going to be happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have done preliminary outreach to the businesses. Now that we have more of our details, you know, a little bit more concrete in terms of what we're going to be working with the footprint in the area, we'll be able to go back out, bring out the one pager that we have created, do some flyering in the neighborhood. The food truck vendor Mahmoud has been raised to us as well. We have had preliminary conversations there, but we'll be returning to him specifically to make sure that he has all of the information that we are discussing tonight.
Thank you. Thanks, Evie. Antonella?
Yeah, I know you said the whole project would be 22 months, but did you say how long those entrances would be or access to that side will be closed for? I know there's the other entrance up the
Right.
block sideway, but those particular entrances in that area, are they going to be closed?
They'll be closed for a maximum of 60 days per staircase.
Okay, 60.
Yeah, and probably, you know, like that'll happen once we're at the stage of doing maximum excavation. So again, we're gonna start off on the northeast side. And again, depending on, you know, what we uncover under the ground and how well that goes when we're doing that phase, and if we could do it quicker, you know, that's always our position to try to return it to service. We would, but again, it would be a maximum of 60 days per staircase.
So there will be one staircase open at all times, at
Yeah.
least. Okay, beautiful. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Antonella. Just a follow-up question to Dan's comment about the sidewalk. What will the remaining pedestrian width of the sidewalk be, Brian, once the elevator is installed? For pedestrians, how wide will the remaining sidewalk be?
I'm gonna give you an estimate now because I don't have the detailed drawings in front of me and I got too many windows open right now. It's gonna be at least 8 feet because since we're adding that elevator in a current traffic lane, we're actually not impacting anything on the sidewalk at all. It's all going into the traffic lane into what's now a parking lane.
So the final elevator will be in the travel lane or the parking lane?
The parking lane.
Oh, so you did show that in your blue square, but so will the new stair also be in the parking lane? Obviously, yes.
Yes, it will be.
I missed that. That's great. So it's going to be the sidewalk will be as wide as it is now.
Absolutely, yeah.
Understood.
Yeah, so all of this is coming out, and it's just the way it happens to work out, just with the, you know, the actual layout and what the structural considerations are underground.
Yeah, so under the streets is probably a lot more, the less building foundations there, right?
There are these things, they're a challenge, I gotta say. Yeah, there's a lot of infrastructure under there.
Yeah.
On the opposite side, for your information, like we are, you know, we have to weave that elevator between water mains and other items and a sewer line. So it's you know, we do the best we can to put the elevators in the most optimal location.
Would you be able to put the slide up again, which shows the elevators that go down to the platforms?
Yeah, yes. Give me one moment, please.
Right. And then would you be able to make any comments of the specifics of the ADA improvements at the platform?
Okay, 1 second. Let's see which one works best for you. Okay, I guess maybe not this one. This one, does this at least show the area a little better that you were looking for?
Well, it doesn't show the elevators from well, it does, I guess, from 30,000 feet up. So, okay. The yellow is New Street to Mez.
Right. So that's right.
Elevator. So that's the one that comes up to the top, and then the blue. So that'll go. That has three landings: the platform, the Mez, and the street. And then the blue one, you walk to that on the on the Mez, and then you're down to the platform on the eastbound side.
That's correct. So the axonometric view, I guess that will.
Yeah.
That was further up here. 1 second. Yeah. So again, this is at the street level, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And here's that staircase. It's actually twisted around from the other view that you saw. But again, so here you're at the street level. Here's that staircase going up. And then when you're at the mezzanine level, you would walk through the fair array and take the other elevator down. And then you had asked about what improvements we're doing at the platform level. So again, the project is, actually our funding is quite limited and specific to ADA improvements. And so it's not a general station rehab. We are rehabilitating the area at the center of the platform, and that's called the ADA boarding area. And that's the optimal location for a customer to enter the subway car.
Sure, and that's in both directions, of course.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So back to there. Okay, is that good?
Yeah, fantastic. So that's in my opinion wonderful. Should we continue with questions? Are there any community board members that'd like to ask a question? Committee members, community board members? Are there any members of the public that would like to make a comment or ask a question? Well, you're getting off easy this time, Megan.
I have a
Evie
question.
has a question.
It's not related to this. It's a general question, and this is for the MTA. But what about the other elevators that are supposed to go along the NRW line?
Oh,
well, I don't know if you can answer that. But
I really can't, only because it's not that I can't, it's that like this project is my main focus and I'm just not part of the group doing the overall planning. So like I got my hands full with these 34 elevators. And so I'm not part of the planning group, so I can't answer on the other stations. Like I can say on the MTA side is like, yes, that's one of our major focuses. So we have, a whole series of projects that are being developed as we get the funding for them, so we could start doing more accessibility projects.
because I think we're supposed to be getting one at Broadway, one at
You are.
Yeah.
So our most up-to-date package that's out, that's been awarded as of December last year, is package 5, and that's the package that contains Broadway station. I don't have information yet as far as what that timeline looks like, but this is the standard process for us when it comes to mobilization. We'll be coming to the community board and we'll be giving you a briefing on that as well at some point.
Thank you.
Are there any other CB1 stations that are receiving elevators, Megan, on any lines?
Off the top of my head, I mean, I can't speak towards the future projects. So right now I can only speak to what we have in bundle 5, generally speaking in Queens. So I'm working on stations that include the Broadway station. I have 2 stations on the 7 line that'll be getting elevators as well. And there's also Court Square. So that's what we have upcoming in Queens.
Well, keep them coming, I think we all say, because once we see them, we know that elderly residents and residents with strollers and people with disabilities they're on the subway because of those elevators.
Absolutely. It's challenging work, but it's impactful. So we're happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Before all the MTA reps leave, I know Brian is surely going to say, not my, whatever department, but I came through the Queens Plaza E-train, Megan, just yesterday, and I walked through the whole walkway just to avoid crossing Queens Plaza. And how would you advise? I know Florence is going to say, call the board. So I hear you, Florence, already, but I just want to make it public as well. How would you advise to request a second station attendant at the Queens Plaza EMR, because it's just very desolate. There are a high level of unhomed people. I don't know what word to use in this place. And it's dangerous. You get students walking through there at 3 o'clock, and there's only one attendant there. When I saw them yesterday, they were on the south side, and the north side was completely desolate. I don't know if it's about station square footage or the fact that it's got these additional passageways, so it really extends the square footage. But how could we advocate for a second attendant for safety on the Queens Plaza East station?
Capacity, as far as the amount of attendance we have, is something that is involved in that. I can take it back to our stations team that's something that the community sounds like they're interested in. But something that is helpful, of course, is that the station attendants, they work out of the booth now, so they have more ability to actually, navigate the station versus being strictly behind the booth. So that change we hear from customers, that has been something that they're really appreciative of these days. But I will take it back to our stations team about being interested in seeing about whether or not there could be another station attendant. I don't know the answer to that right now.
I would bet that E-Train EMR station has more than, it's got twice the area than any of the stations on the N line. And it's also, it doesn't have a central attendant. It's got these end attendants. So now that they took the north end away, it's really poor planning, and thank you. And I know, Florence, I'll email you that and work with you on that. And thank you for helping advance Florence on that. Okay, Dan, you have a question. Please go.
I do. I have a question. Apropos of the station attendants, I'd like to request, whatever way can be done, that in training the station attendants to, if they're going to approach a blind person, that they identify themselves as who they are, instead of just walking up to somebody and start talking. Because in the day and age that we live in, it's not a good idea.
Understood. Thank you for that feedback.
Understood. I mean, I can say, and again, we'll take that back also. But I mean, the MTA, that is our position as well. We're on the same page as you guys, and actually, we have a pretty good training session that everyone in my department goes through each and every year. It's an interactive video, about 25 minutes long, and actually, it is very, very insightful because it goes into all the best ways of interacting with people. Because again, not everyone knows what's appropriate, or they could at least use some tips. And so the MTA does do that. We can still, remind our group as well and point out that stuff is much needed and appreciated by the neighborhood.
Yeah, I think a refresher would be in order for quite a few of them.
Understood.
Oh, Dominic, I think you're muted.
Thanks for telling me. So basically, we brought up some new business there because we had the MTA's ears, but we don't want to hold the MTA hostage. We appreciate your presentation and the project, and I hope it goes well and goes according to schedule. And please keep Florence and the board updated.
Absolutely. I want to just thank my team for being here tonight and just for their work on this. And again, thank you to the community board for having us. Thank you to you, Dominic and Florence, for always giving us the opportunity to be here.
Oh, we appreciate it. Thanks.
Yep, likewise. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for hearing us out and giving us your feedback.
We'll see you on Steinway and 34th, Brian.
Yeah, we'll be out. It's a construction site. It's going to be a mess and it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but we'll get through it. Okay.
Believe you.
Yep.
You, Ryan.
Through the chair. So DOT will want letters of support to be asked for at the full board. MTA, this was just an informational session, correct? You do not need letters of support? MTA?
Yes, hi, Brian here. I would have to defer back to my government community relations group on that thing. I don't think we need those letters of support, though. I think this is more of an information session, yes.
I believe that's correct. I'll double check with Megan and I'll update, but I know the DOT would like letters of support.
I see. Okay, that
Thanks
makes
a lot.
sense.
Appreciate you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Thank you. No, thanks, Brian.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a good
Appreciate
evening.
it. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Yep. Hi. Thanks, Florence, for that. So you're saying, and maybe it would be, we could, possibly I'll work with you to put it on the agendas that when items that need a letter of support or a vote, we could possibly introduce them differently in the agenda. So you're basically saying we're going to take.
I can put it for you in parentheses in the setup for the letter. Whenever we do the agenda, I would put in paren at the end of the item, requested letter of support. That's very easy if you'd like that.
That'd be great, because I think that might make the committee members that are on the fence about attending, flip to attending to make sure we have quorum. So that's a great idea.
Okay, pleasure.
So you're directing us to, although we don't have a letter of support written.
No, you just vote on it and I write it. It's not a big deal. It's just Community Board 1 Queens at the full board meeting voted in favor, against, a unanimous 36-20, whatever the numbers are, and that's all it is. It's just a bland letter. Just you just have to vote for it.
But can we, can the committee, I request that the committee get a copy of the letter prior to the open meeting where there'll be the official vote on it. Would that be all right?
Yes, but no. I'll leave the numbers blank, because what it is Community Board 1 Queens voted in yes, but it'll be blank.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Right. We'll assume they will put numbers in, but at least I'd like to see I'd like to.
Yeah.
Anything that we're going to vote on from this committee, I'd like to see it presented in writing.
Sure.
To the
Not a
committee
problem.
prior to the vote.
Will do.
That's great. Thanks. So, we should move to old business, new business. Does anybody have any old business? Does anybody have any new business besides me? Nas, I see you thinking of new business.
No, I don't have anything.
All right.
Yeah, I had a question about the congestion pricing thing. Is there, like, I know you and I, we kind of live close to the bridge kind of thing. And for someone who's in our area, we have to pay to go, if you want to go shopping or to the doctor or whatever, bring your parents to the doctor or whatever, you now have to pay. Is there, I think if it's above 60th Street, but is there some sort of summary as to how you can get around that if you live in Queens? I guess, like, do you go up and then you have to go around on the West Side Highway and come down? I mean, do we have anything that kind of shows what the plan is exactly?
So I think you're basically asking for a more precise layout of the zone of where the Easy Pass readers are, the license plate readers, I should say, are, so that you can plan accordingly. Because I know that I believe the FDR and the West Side Highway are outside the zone for loops like you're talking about. But so
It's just weird that we live so close to the bridge and then we have to kind of pay. And then the other thing is we're going to have so many people come in that were previously driving to Manhattan. Now they're going to park in our area. And that's going to be a big problem for us.
Which they do already, right? They do already.
They do, but it's going to be more because the people who are driving into Manhattan now are like, they're going and they're parking in Manhattan. If they get to work before 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, they can park there. But now they're not going to pay that extra $20, whatever it is, $20, and then park in Manhattan. They're just going to come and try to find more spots in our streets.
I just want to, Antonella, I just want to kind of formalize what we're doing right now, because so I'm going to call this the first topic of new business as a congestion pricing discussion. I do see Dan's hand up, but before we discuss, I just want to say that I have on the agenda a Bronx CB6 proposal of support, and I want to throw that in as new business, and I'll call that it's a new proposed law about auto shops. So that's auto shops. I want to find time for that with the board. And then I wanted to mention the E-Train request, and Dan mentioned about the attendance. I just want to write these down so we can act on them. See, the attendance trained to introduce themselves. So should we let Dan? And so Dan, if you want to go ahead, are you joining the congestion pricing discussion, or do you want to discuss another topic?
Well, I'm just thinking the way that the discussion is going. I think it's not the greatest thing for us to be discussing how to circumvent the tolls. I think it should be presented a little differently.
Well, not really. I don't mean it in that way. I think I mean it in the way, well, legally to get around. I mean, the fact that we live so close by, there's no way we're going to get around it. You know, we're just going to, whatever is
I'm just saying,
available.
don't come out and say it. That's basically.
I mean, I think we would have to go uptown and then go around. But if you have to, you know, go to doctor's offices and you have someone who's disabled that can't walk, you have to drive, you know, older people, and most of them go into Manhattan for the hospitals. And it's going to be a hardship for a lot of people who have parents that go in often, elderly parents, I mean. So, or kids or whoever's disabled and you can't take the subway. So I think that is something that is not being addressed. And it's a lot of money for people.
So,
I put just by the way, there's an extensive like fact sheet that shows you the areas and stuff. I put a link in the chat for you so you can take a look at it. But
oh, great, thanks.
Thanks, Nas. You were saying, Dan?
I think I forgot what I was going to say. I'll come back. I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry.
My thoughts, not that anyone cares about my thoughts, is the change is hard, and this is change. And although it's bringing some stress to certain members of our community, it'll also bring a lot of alleviate a lot of stress for other members of the community. So it's a change, and the long-term expectation with the funds helping the MTA is also that you know, because I've heard for years in my world of people complaining about having to be driven to the medical facilities, but you know, if we as a community, as a society, start walking more and biking more in the next 20, 30 years, hopefully we'll have a healthier population, and that'll be a plus. But we're definitely in a time of turbulence here, where we're being affected with higher costs to get into medical facilities. My dad's 86. He goes to 40th Street and 2nd Avenue, NYU. So I know what you're saying. Sometimes if he's well enough, we go on the train, and sometimes he'll take an Uber. But I know what you're saying. So Nas, thanks for putting that info. I see even more info from Kian. Thanks, Kian, in the chat. Dan?
Yeah, I just remember what it was. I'm not sure whether if you take the lower level of the 59th Street Bridge and you come out on the Manhattan side, are you still inside the pay the toll area or not? I know if you take the upper level into Manhattan, you're not going to be, but
right, and you
right
have two options off the inbound lower level. You can go straight to 2nd Avenue South, or you can hairpin turn back to 1st Avenue North. Does Nas or does anybody know that answer? I know.
If you go that little jog to the right, is that going to be still inside?
Anyone know? Maybe Lawrence.
That's not part of the toll. It's if it's everything below 60th Street. So if you go on the lower roadway and you divert right on that little pathway, that'll get you out of the toll zone. The second you go back into it, of course, you're in the toll zone unless you go straight to the FDR and go down and don't enter local streets. Otherwise, every other part of it would be in the zone. And to get back on it, so I mean, you can get out that way, but if you want to get back on it, no matter what, you're going to have to get into the zone. So one way or another, if you take it, you're going to end up taking the bridge.
So who's speaking? That's not Kian? Who is that?
No, that's me.
Is that Dan or Kian?
That was me.
Oh, the yellow ring was around Dan's Zoom icon here. Kian, so once again, the third option is going straight off 2nd Avenue, and going westbound on, is that 60th when you come in?
Yeah, it's 60th. Yep.
So that's not in the zone, or that is in the zone. That's a kind of right off the lower
anything lower than 60th. Yeah. So there's that one street, I forget, it either gets you off at 60th or 61st, but the MTA has said that won't make you subject to the charge.
It's
right. You will be able to get off the 59th Street Bridge without paying a toll, but I don't think you can get onto it. Going toward Queens, that is.
Yeah, you couldn't.
I'm sure that if you're coming southbound on Second Avenue and you turn left on the lower roadway, I can't imagine you get tolled for that little 1 block.
I would
If
think
it's
you
below
would.
60th.
Yeah, I know it's below 60th, but it's not below 50, if it's not. It's a good question. We'll look into that. So,
That Tramway Plaza area there, I think that is in the toll area, but my question had been about the other one, and now it's answered, so yeah.
yeah. Okay, so switching topics, Evie received a memo, and I didn't know how timely this was, and I found out recently it's not as timely as I thought, so I could save this for new business next time, but sometimes meetings are canceled and so forth, so the Bronx CB6 is supporting a resolution by Senator Rivera of the Bronx about kind of treating auto shops similar to restaurants, in that their renewal would be subject to a CB review. And I think that sounds like a great proposal, and they're asking us for a letter of support to support, just to reach to our elected senators, Janaris and who are other senators, and they
I
changed some.
think Gonzalez is ours.
I'm not sure.
Kristen Gonzalez is,
Yeah,
at least
Kristen Gonzalez and Janaris, and there's a third one.
I thought he got redistricted, redistricted.
But so the request is so I'd like to share this this letter that I've got 2 letters here. One is to Evie, and it's all I'm doing it so that at the open meeting we can have a letter of support to go out for this cause. So Florence, I'm going to share my it's a normal share, right? I don't think I'm notified.
Yeah, share your screen, sure.
Will do.
But what if the vote comes back Yes, it doesn't matter. Okay, I got it. Don't worry, forget it.
No, I appreciate your question. What is your okay.
So I'm just going to say, so usually with letters of support, you just vote on the letter of support, and the letter is a bland letter. The board voted in favor. But the thing is, if the board votes against it, but I can see both sides. I understand what you're saying. That's what I was going to say. I see both sides. It's up to you. It's not a problem.
Sure, I will share. I just don't know how to. Okay.
Dots?
No, I got it. I got it. I just want to.
I think maybe you meant to say not like a letter of support, but just a similar letter asking or requesting a similar ask, maybe.
They're all generic. Those letters are generic. They're template letters. The board voted in favor, blah, blah, blah. So it would just be the vote numbers. But if you want to see it on paper, it's not a problem.
Do you see the letter?
So we're talking about not being a support letter of their request, but our own request, a parallel request.
No, it's in the Ray. So what happens is in the Ray subject, it would reference whatever the item is. And then the necessary elected officials would be CC'd. This has been done for generations. Simple.
So this letter to Evie, which is on the screen, says it's from Yvonne Capers, the chair of the CB6 in the Bronx. And it says some interesting facts about our area, so I'd be happy to read it if you don't mind.
Please read it.
Bronx CB6 is home to the neighborhoods of West Farms and Bathgate, both of which have high concentrations of auto repair shops. For years, the board has received complaints of illegal parking practices at these shops and has had little recourse. Auto shops in our district leave cars in various states of repairs on sidewalks, in residential parking spaces, and double parked in the street, preventing pedestrians from using sidewalks, limiting the available parking to residents, and disrupting traffic flow, period. The board regularly communicates with NYPD regarding this illegal parking, which results in tow operations to remove these vehicles. However, these efforts are unable to keep pace with the constant illegal parking practices of auto shops. Second paragraph. Pursuant to Bronx CB6 June 23 board meeting, the board has resolved to support State Senate Oversight Bill S 5936, which would create a public hearing process for Department of Motor Vehicle license renewals for auto shops. These hearings will create an opportunity for community boards and NYPD to provide input on license renewal and create accountability for licensees who are bad neighbors. If community boards do not wish to issue an opinion on auto shops, the hearings can proceed without their input. Your community board contains zip codes 11101 and 11377, which contain 130 and 111 auto shops per a recent DMV listing, the highest in New York City. We ask that your board consider this issue and consider reaching out to your state elected officials to support this legislation. So that's their copy to Evie, and also in the email was their sample letter to their elected officials, which I don't think I need to share. So
So Dom, can I give you a little background on this?
please.
So while the intentions are excellent and highly supportable, the truth is New York City doesn't have enough storage facilities. So what would happen is, as you all know, we have on our capital expense list the request for boots. Boots are the metal objects that they put on the tires when the cars do illegal actions. The city of New York, one, does not have enough boots. Two, they do not have enough police officers to go out and boot the vehicles. And three, when the vehicles get towed, they don't have a compound because they lost their biggest contract to place the vehicles. That's why I had the 5-year issue with the RVs that I often talk about at the full board meeting.
Right.
I would think that there might be a rider put onto this, that DMV took some responsibility for the enforcement, because if this does pass, they will plop the enforcement onto the police department. And as you know, with the quality of life issues, a lot of people don't want these types of things going into NYPD, and they don't have the manpower or the facilities to support it. So what would happen is if it passes, it would pass, and then there would be nothing to come of it at the end of the day because there would be no enforcement. This is the whole truth and nothing but the truth. There would be no enforcement.
Right.
The necessary infrastructure isn't there, and it would take an abundant amount of money to create it.
I think, given whatever logistical complications there are in improving the situation or tackling the problem, plain as day, and certainly Transportation Committee has seen this over and over and over and over again, is frankly, the body shops are almost always bad neighbors. So, whether we have enough boots or enough toes or whatever the logistical issue is there, it seems the ask here is to put some pressure on local electeds to get some measure of oversight that goes just beyond flooding with 311s and getting tows to happen. Whereas, and I'll give one close to home example that has also come up in many meetings. I have the Stance Body Shop right by me on 20th Avenue, as well as a couple of other ones that run along 20th Avenue in like the 30s and 40s in the Ditmars area. It is clear that they do illegal modifications on cars constantly. Their clientele then tests those illegal modifications in the neighborhood constantly. And, we hear that NYPD goes and visits, or maybe they do, maybe they don't. We don't know if DMV is doing any checks. So in my mind, as just a board, if we're interested in tackling this issue, which I do think is worthy, and it is a significant quality of life issue, that if there is at least some measure of having regular routine business checks and renewals come up that have like a checklist of, okay, you do not do illegal modifications, you do not leave junked cars on the street, also another thing, that this would sort of head off the problem of then figuring out, oh, well, where do we store all their derelict cars? Whereas if the business is clearly not operating above board, then we can say, all right, well, the body shop's not renewed, find somewhere else to operate or don't operate at all. So, like, I mean, that's my take on it, but I do think that their ask is pretty reasonable. And, you know, if it's a quality of life issue that we're dealing with, probably good to push for something that sort of nips it at the bud rather than having to figure out the logistics of, well, how do we get enough tow trucks to dump these somewhere where we don't have space, as a hypothetical.
No, you're right. You're 100% right in everything you said. But at the end of the day, it does end up enforcement. And what I'm saying is similar to what you're saying in the fact of baking in some kind of an enforcement measure, but not plopping it where it's not going to be effective, where you won't see results.
So, if I may, thanks. I see you, Elizabeth. We'll definitely get to you right next.
Me too.
And yeah, no, Dan, even with I appreciate what you're saying, Nas, and I do agree with you. And I live in the Dutch Kills area, and it's probably the densest area of auto repair shops. And I don't want to even limit it to body shops. There's all different type of auto repair shops, and I was thrilled to see this suggestion. I think it has a degree of brilliance to it. It really does. And so I think we can discuss the details. We're doing it now. We can do it at the full board. I'm hoping we can come up with some type of support that considers Florence's comments. And I kind of feel in my work, which is filing design, structural designs, we actually say that disapproval is better than no response. So I'm happy to throw it in front of the board and potentially have a disapproval vote, because we'll at least see and we'll have the discussion. So I'm looking forward to it. So Elizabeth and then Dan. You're muted, Liz.
There we go. Okay, there we go. I couldn't even find the hand. That's why I was going like this. I think the issue that you're talking about really is more of a local issue and something that DMV really doesn't have. It's not within their purview. You're talking about a land use issue that has impacts on it. And I think I don't remember what happened, what the result was, but when we were doing the economic development, there was talk about having auto repair shops have special permits through the Board of Standards and Appeals. Now, I'm not sure if that went through in the legislation, in the zoning changes that occurred, but it all comes down to really allowing them to locate in places where they would thrive and wouldn't be an impact on residential communities or commercial communities. So I think that I'll look into it and see what the status of that is, because there was talk about it, but I'm not sure. You can let your state senator or whoever I don't know if it's state senator or state assembly person, who it is, let them know that it is an issue for us here. But I don't know. I'd have to read the legislation. I don't know what they're proposing really.
Well, basically,
but the public review comes with the zoning issue and with the permit issue, because it would be a ULURP situation where the community board would get a chance to review it.
What would be the time frame of that permit? Would it be permanent? Would it be renewable every 5 years? What's the standard for that?
Well, usually BSAs are term they give terms of operation. They'll give you a permit for a period of 5 years or 10 years, whatever they determine is needed. In this case, it could be, you can ask. I don't know if they have this though. That's the question. I have to look up in the zoning resolution to see if they do have.
But I want you to know, Elizabeth, and I think this is an important point. Nobody is complaining about the presence of auto shops. People are complaining about them having their work spill out onto the sidewalks and the streets. That's what we're complaining about here. We're not complaining about their presence. If they were in areas that had more land, or they were less successful and had less customers, they could do all their work inside their premise. This is just a proposal to be able to you know, have a hand in managing that. No, that's the goal here. I don't think that this is a zoning issue at all. I think this is a like, unless the zoning code says, manufacturing or commercial use, you can put all your derelict cars on the street in front of you. Which
No. What the zoning says is that it will prohibit the location of those uses in areas that would have a significant impact on the local community. And yes, maybe they could even within the purview of the permit dictate size and location of where the work could be done and things like that. But you know, you're right, it's enforcement.
But it's also it's like consumer affairs. This is a consumer affairs issue as much as a zoning issue. You know, just like Dino talks about, we had no complaints from these restaurants. This bill gives us the opportunity to look at the complaints for auto shops. And sorry, I cut you off, by the way.
You're right, Don, by the way, the ECA used to do this. They don't do it anymore. Many years ago.
Also, this request is about a statewide regulation, not a city regulation. And when you talk zoning, you're talking city.
Yeah.
Yes, you're talking
this proposal is a state issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's just something for you to think about. It's a way, if it becomes an issue within your committee, it's some way, it's an avenue you can approach it from.
Understood. I think the parallel might be when you file a renovation for a restaurant, you put your paperwork into the building department and potentially you file for a variance. But once your plans are filed off and you're up and running, then you're subject to health department and consumer affairs review. And that's what they're trying to parallel. So I think that this would be a parallel that would come after the permissions from the zoning code or the DCP. Dan?
Well, also, as far as policing is concerned, I mean, it's always against the law to block the sidewalk wherever you are. You don't have to put in anything special for that. It's already not legal to do that. And we're also talking about a statewide regulation. There's a lot of car places all across the state. It's a huge industry. And so often when new legislation is put into place, there's no enforcement built into it. It has to go to test cases and through courts and all kind of stuff, and it takes forever to get case law in place. But if you put a regulation in with the penalty already in, I think it speeds things up and it gets this stuff going quicker.
So what is your suggestion regarding penalties and this?
Well, put in, I don't know exactly what, but say, if you don't abide by whatever this regulation is, you're going to have a suspension of your license or something like that.
Right.
Not that they're going to put them out of business. You don't want to put these people out of business. You want to straighten them out.
That's what this does.
So, a reasonable fine or a suspension, something like that.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah,
I think it parallels.
I think that's the crux of what this letter is getting at, frankly. So yeah, it's like just trying to push for like a built-in mechanism to create a very big incentive to not, let's say, lose your business. All baked in.
Yeah.
When I saw the facts that our zip codes have the highest density, or the highest amount, I should say, of auto repair shops, I shouldn't have been surprised.
I work in Long Island City, so I can tell you for sure. I'm in between like 5 of them, and it's literally impossible to walk on a sidewalk there.
Yeah.
You can imagine what I run into.
Yeah, sure. Lawrence, you were going to say something?
Don't forget what we used to be before we had all the development coming our way. We were mainly manufacturing development. We had factories of all kinds in the area.
Right.
So yeah, you're 100% right. This was common. The development came up around these entities. These entities have been here forever.
There were times
our homes are new.
There were times when the butcher shop around the corner would throw its entrails all into the street, and
Yeah,
it doesn't happen anymore.
Crazy times.
Doesn't happen anymore.
Good old days, yeah.
Someone complained. Someone advocated against throwing your dead animal parts into the gutter.
It does still kind of happen on 20th Avenue, honestly.
You're not wrong, Nass. We have a
Oh
couple
my
of
God.
chicken places that don't know how to behave themselves.
Oh,
For real.
yeah. Is that slaughter place still there on 20th Avenue or is
Yeah.
21st?
Yeah, it's right by me. It's
Yep.
Mm.
He's not a good neighbor, unfortunately. God bless him.
But he doesn't have a consumer affairs review. He doesn't have Dino to check him out every 2 years. Okay, so so regarding this, to push it through, we've seen the letter. Do we need? I'd like to actually have. I'd like to press on and have our board vote on a letter of support for this bill. And in the meantime, think about the good comments about enforcement and how that should be considered, and maybe see what Bronx CB6 did regarding that. So,
it's sorry, Dom, I didn't mean to cut you off. I mean, yeah, letter of support,
yeah,
put it up for vote, that's fine. My understanding, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I think the text in particular at the end was mainly like, hey, you guys might want to consider pushing this from your end as well, which is to say, bringing up with our local electeds that state bill, whatever the number was, and pushing for that. So like, yeah, letter of support is one thing, but maybe also they're like, hey, if it's coming from multiple angles to, pursue whatever that state law is, then it's more helpful if that's pursued as like a separate letter to our
oh
representative.
no, that's the intention here. Here I'm sharing the second letter. So this is the actual letter, not the letter that they wrote to Evie. And so what I'm proposing is we do the same thing. I'm not proposing that we give a letter of support for the other letter.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. I'm proposing the same product we see here. In general, Evie made some good comments to me in discussion to kind of take out some of the subjectivity and keep the facts. So that's my goal here.
Yeah, I think that's worthwhile in my opinion. Yeah.
Dan, this is this very similar letter addressed to State Senator Gustavo Rivera from chair of CB6. This is not the one I read before, right, guys?
No.
Right. Okay. Didn't think I was going
I could rebake that for you with our boundaries if you wanted that rebaked and send you a sample.
I like that term. Yes. I would like this rebaked and voted on. Or baked.
Rebaked, yeah.
Rebaked. Okay. Dan, you have your hand up.
Oh, I didn't put it down.
No worries. All right. So we'll proceed on that, and I'll work with Florence on that. Any other new business? Okay. Motion to adjourn. Gotta hear it, Antonella.
Agreed.
Motioning
Agreed.
to adjourn.
Antonella motion.
Seconded, third.
Dan second.
Good night.
Procedural question, Florence. Is Dan, not being a committee member, allowed to second the motion?
Oh, yeah.
Technically, no.
Dan,
You really don't
All right.
need because
So it's not seconded. I
really
didn't
not
say a word.
vote. You don't really need motions. You can just say good night.
Good night. Thanks, Dan. And
Night.
thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks very much, Elizabeth, for your attendance.
Thank you, Dominic. It's really good.
Thanks, Shahanaz.
As usual. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye, guys. Take care.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night.